Bitcoin just topped $120,000. What's behind this sharp rally, and is that sustainable?
Ah, that's the biggest $1 million question, or $1 million Bitcoin question. Is it sustainable? Uh, we are feeling a big down trend, let's call it. But so far, since Trump has been up in Washington, and he's promised that he wants to hype it, but he didn't do it the way he promised. But now we can see more and more driving of adoption, even from legislation. The Genius Act that is done a few weeks ago that established a framework for stablecoins. Was it the clarity? Is it a commodity? Is it a security? So now we're having more clarity on this. Is it anti-CBDC laws and surveillance act that refute the CBDC, which is central bank digital currencies? So there's a lot of things happening on the policy, on the price correlation. There's institutional confidence, macro dynamics, of course, Trump administration and its role. And today we have the ISO 2222, wait, I'm trying to, 20022, which will be effective. What does this ISO mean? It's a messaging system for interbank that works for crypto. So that means that the Federal Reserve has officially adopted this. That means they are hunting similar ground as Visa ISO messaging, which is a standard similar to SWIFT messaging. So now we have a global standard that is adopted and will be based on crypto. So adoption is there, making it easy for everyone to adopt it is finally here. The people, the incentive, the crowd, the investors, I think things are falling around. Now comes your big questions. Will it be sustainable? The way we're seeing it is always going up. We might have some incidents that might affect it, but not in the current cycle or not in the current moment the way it is going, because we have all of the positive signs, all of the positive pillars showing big support from trading perspective, from exchanges perspective, that everything is actually pointing up.
Well, you've mentioned the Genius Act. Now, it does aim to regulate stablecoins and allow digital dollar issuance. Do you think this could impact, or would it even impact the market and its stability?
It will impact the market, not in the short term. This needs a while to be implemented, but maybe on a longer term. But in the end of the day, if a dollar is, paper, or actually currently it is a digital dollar, regardless of the paper, because the amount of being printed in the last few years is being printed on digitally. But now we have a stable coin that can be traded anywhere in the world. And finally, we might be having the US digital dollar, not USDT, in terms of how companies are being benefiting. If you look at USDT by itself, the amount of profits they have, and it's emulating the digital dollar, that's an economy by itself. So what if now the US and other major players using the Genius Act, which is really changes the full reserve of banking into a digital aspect? I think we're going to be seeing more and more adoption, more and more growth in the ecosystem, and more trust. That's what we need, the trust factor, that this crazy crypto, if you want to call it, that has been ups and downs, that we saw it different cycles. There was scams at one point of time. That doesn't mean there's no more scams, but similarly to other currencies or technology, now is being adopted officially by all of those big players. Was it from big banks, or was it from ETFs, or was it from BlackRock, or all of those investments vehicles and companies that are working globally and bringing this to the consumer itself?
Well, the role, as you've mentioned, of institutional buyers and the exchange traded fund inflows, how significant really will it be on this current trend?
Well, it's a major effect. We can do it without this adoption. And if XRP, if in a few weeks, if you follow XRP, there's a huge campaign, was it direct or indirect or influenced, that if ISO 2022 is being adopted as a global messaging system, that means every single bank now will drop his SWIFT, drop their traditional banks, and then jump into this global new way of doing instantaneous transaction. So there's a huge shift. And if you notice SWIFT back in 2018 and 2019, on the days of when they got the biggest hack, $100+ million that went to Bangladesh because of lack of security. And then they discovered, we are unprotected for cybersecurity. In the same time, we're being challenged by the new players such as XRP and so on. So starting from XRP and going into the legislation, adoption, going into how BlackRock with ETFs, and soon we might be having also the Ethereum ETFs that are possibly to be approved by the SEC. It's going to be another huge game changer for the ecosystem itself, and how they're going to be more and more adopting such technologies and trading. If we look around us now, especially now in the Middle East, which is we are secondary to this whole new technologies, more and more exchange houses, traditional exchange houses, are jumping into the investments of crypto. So they're adding new crypto to their portfolios. That was something we've not seen for a while. Now it's being done, offered through ETFs or offered directly through trading. So I think the future is only bright, and more adoption is the only word. If you look at now, I think we're reaching around 1 billion wallet in the crypto space. So that's a big indicator where things are actually going.
Mm-hmm. Well, Congress has kicked off the Crypto Week, debating major legislation. How might these proposed bills reshape the crypto landscape in the US and maybe then in turn, how old?
Yeah, we've seen the pre-Trump administration versus now with all of those bills. We were expecting them, and this is what Trump said from day one. I will issue a lot of decrees, a lot of hype, a lot of U.S. committees, legislations, and so on and so on. He didn't do it, but now I think he's more focused on this and his administration, because we had to change Gary Gensler, which was against all of this. So if this happens in the U.S., guess what the world will be following? The U.S. So the U.S. is a major player in a global economy and a global shaping the crypto world. And if the U.S. rejects something, the rest of the world will definitely have to reject it, because the center of the finance or economy is actually being driven through the U.S. So if it is adopted, and this is how we see it going forward with all of those legislation and activities, workshops, House of U.S. House committees, all of this, and now with ETFs possibly, the world will only follow. So now if you open a bank account wherever you are, you have to technically declare it to the US, and then the US has to approve or not one way or another if you have nationality and so on. And if you are on FATCA or so on, so you are directly following the US whatever you want with their legislation. So what if now crypto is on the agenda of everyone? Definitely it's going to be on every single country's agenda. And then if we look at today's ecosystem in the Middle East and how it is growing, and knowing, for example, Saudi bans and doesn't allow its citizens to deal with it, and then all of a sudden the US will influence one way or indirectly one of the biggest economies in the Middle East and Asia. This is in our region. So imagine the European Union, which has been legislation for a long term, and now with MiCA and other legislation. So hopefully we'll have some more adoption globally for that global citizen cryptocurrencies or currencies as they fold.
Yes.